So there's the latest subject, the 1975 Yamaha RD350. Currently has an RD400 motor installed, but it's all stock 400 motor, stock 400 pipes, stock carbs. The only thing that's non-standard on this build is the airbox situation, and that's kind of the subject of this video. We're talking about carburation. If you have an RD and you've gotten rid of the stock airbox, or perhaps a previous owner has done it for you, you may have pod filters clamped directly to the carbs. It's not a great solution, but some guys do that. What I've got here is a Y-boot with a uni little foam filter element. This is a little better. You can't really see a whole lot, but it's in there. You can see the issue unless you pull these things off, you know, and you just shit cam the panels. Pod filters ain't gonna fit unless you cram them in there. The previous owner had done just that. They had some TM34, I think that's what they were, big old flat slides with some little uni foam filters clamped on and just smashed wherever. You know, the foam will smash. You can definitely mangle those things up. But it was kind of a haphazard, half-assed setup. So this is what's in there now. The problem you have with that is you are never going to get it jetted properly with the stock carbs in their stock configuration. And that's the culprit right there. That's the needle jet or emulsion tube in the stock RD350 and RD400. The reed valve motors got these, so yeah, bleed type needle jet. The previous piston port R5 used these guys as a primary type. And these are the trick. As far as I can tell, the airbox is the difference. The stock airbox seems to work perfectly well with the stock configuration. So that's these bleed type needle jets. These are 350 carbs, but very similar to the 400, with one minor modification for that external pilot air circuit that the 400 has. So both the 350 and the 400, if I can get my flashlight, there we go. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. Inside of that hole at 6 o'clock is a little brass air jet. There you go, you can kind of see it. On the 400, you have to drill, maybe even the 350. I may have already drilled this one. Yeah, I can't remember. But in any case, once you open up that passage at 6 o'clock, you see a little air jet in there. That is an integral component of the bleed type primary jet, or bleed type needle jet, on these reed valve bikes. So in its stock configuration, you're never going to get it clean in that mid throttle range. And for me, it was around 5,000 RPM. Usually in that transition, when you're rolling towards from half to towards full throttle, it was a hiccup. A lot of guys on the internet are talking about a rich spot. To me, it felt lean. It's kind of a bog. Sometimes you get a little pop, and then it would clear out and start to, you know, try to run like hell after that. But it's impossible. It's not a main jet issue. It's not a clip position. It's not the needle taper. You can try to mask it with other circuits, but you're never going to cover it up, and you're going to cause other problems trying to work around the issue. So the solution is, I think, what most of the old guys were talking about, the Dave F mod, which consists primarily of, you get these carbs, you drill out your little air jet. Pretty easy to do. You just take the whatever brass ball or whatever is blocking off that little orifice there. You drill in there with it's a fairly small bit. You don't want to go too big. Something like this one. I don't know what size that is. It's just big enough to grab it. This is a 1/8. That might be too big. You just want to grab that needle, the little air jet, drill it until it pulls out. Oftentimes you drill them just for a minute. As soon as the drill bites, it'll just spin that thing and pull the whole jet right out. That's step one. Step two is you're going to have to get some proper needle jets. Now this is where I had some learning to do on this project. I didn't realize how many of these there were. And boy, there's a lot. So what I have here, 169 P0. For the 400, these were wholly inappropriate. Way too lean. The 350, I think they probably work pretty well. In conjunction with a 5DP7. I think that's the correct needle for any of these. That's just, that's for this type of needle jet. If you go to the primary type, you're going to need the 5DP7. I've done some testing with a 5EJ13. It's not really, I don't think it's better. I can't really make that one work. The 5DP7 is the original R5 piston port needle, and the R5 originally came with the primary type needle jets. These are great if you have a pretty much atmospheric intake system where you don't have any kind of a restriction or obstruction between the bell mouth of the carb and the the air. A lot of these things, 350, 400, they have a lot of, they're trying to muffle that intake noise. I get it, it's kind of loud, I guess, but the more muffling and the more restriction you have, these things seem to work great. You go to atmospheric, you're going to need the 5DP7s. It's it's a 169 series needle jet. For the 400, the final setup, which I think I'm pretty happy with, I got 35 pilots, the 169 P4 needle jets, the 5DP7s. Those are somewhere between, I want to say, the second or third clip position. I'm at high altitude, so your results, may vary depending on your location. Main jets are actually quite small for this one, considering the, stock pipes, stock porting. I cleaned up the porting, just blended the transfers where the sleeve meets the transfer tunnel. There's usually a little bit of regularity there. The 400s are pretty good. The 350s are similar. The older piston port motors, you have some work to do in those. The cylinders that I got, there's a horrible mismatch between the liners and the aluminum cylinder. But all of the RDs are affected to that to a lesser extent. The R5s, if you have one and you've never addressed it, you probably need to pull your cylinders off and figure that out, because it really does hold up some horsepower. That's a very crucial part of the porting, where the tunnel emerges into the cylinder, and if you have a misalignment there, it just creates a ton of turbulence and throws the whole thing off. And that can seem like a jetting issue. It's not going to run right. You're going to have poor throttle response. So that's not something you can jet out on the R5s. But on the RDs, you usually don't have that much work to do. They got better with the casting, so the motors are good. The squish is, well, it's not perfect in stock form, but usually it's not going to cause a jetting issue. Not like these bastards, though. Oh, that's your jetting issue right there. So if you are running anything other than a stock airbox, you really have no choice. You got to go with the 169 needle jets. The main jet does get smaller with those. I've done a lot of testing with the piston port R5, the RD350, the RD400. These bleed type needle jets require a larger main jet. It's just the way they are. That's the way it all works out. That's the sum of all the various contributions. I figure maybe these guys attenuate the signal to the main jet somewhat. They have a that bleed, you have an air fuel emulsion around these little holes. These guys here just have a straight tube going up, and all the actual atomization occurs up here in the very top end of it. And I'm not sure what makes one leaner than the other. For the life of me, I can't figure that one out. Like I have some 169 O0s. That's a super lean that came out of my piston port carbs, the R5. Those things are way leaner than the P series. Those are about, the O0 to the P0 is about 5 steps. So these are way richer than what came out of the R5 carbs. And visually, I cannot tell a single goddamn difference between them. But there is a difference, and you will feel it. And the biggest difference, once you're tuning the needle jet, which, honestly, geez, that's a shitty process. The needle jet and the pilot and the needle clip position and the air cutaway on the slide and the air screw, if I hadn't mentioned that, these all overlap quite a bit. So the best way I can describe it with these needle jets, if you're off on the needle jet, you're going to have a bog. Usually when you're starting off, low RPM, when you're rolling into the throttle, it's not going to be super responsive. It's going to seem like you're lean on the needle, like the clip position. And again, you can kind of mask that. Just like, there's so much overlap in all these circuits, you can mask one thing with another. But you'll be too rich on the clip position where it has its greatest effect, which is in the mid-range, where you're, say, half throttle, 3/4 range. So these little guys here, if you're getting a bog, say first gear, starting off, you're low RPM, kind of a weak vacuum signal, the carbs aren't, they don't really start working well until higher RPM, and there's a little bit more stronger, more consistent signal through the carb. But that's where these guys really make a difference, that little needle jet. So if you're leaning on that little first crack of the throttle, you might try a step or two on the needle jets. And these guys here, the primary type, are also more sensitive to pilot jet and air screw position. So these guys here do require some tuning. You know, this is another variable that doesn't really exist in the newer carbs. If you have like a TMX, like in that KX there, that old Yamaha over there has a 38mm key in PWK. These carbs don't have replaceable needle jets. From the factory, they determined, I guess, that they had one that was pretty much ideal for all applications. In my experience, that's pretty much correct. I mean, the carb on that Yamaha, I actually had two PWKs on there. I had one from a KTM 125SX, and now it's on a 500cc two-stroke single. No problems, you know, just jetting, pilot, main. The needle is crucial on those PWKs. I think the TMX too. The needle has a greater effect, I think, than it does on these old VM28 round slides. But the newer bikes don't have this. This is not a variable. This is only a thing, for better or worse. This only exists on the VMs. So in some cases, you might have something that you just can't tune out. So it's good to have the variable if you know how to manipulate it. Bummer is, I don't know if it's really necessary. Like if you put some T, like, you know, a lot of guys put the, what is it, PWK 28 on these. That carb is going to eliminate this whole thing. You're not going to have to deal with this shit. If you got the stock carbs, though, and honestly, they work great. They're really good carbs. The tunability, once you have a handle on it, it's not an issue. But boy, getting a handle on it, especially when you make serious changes, such as, say you put, for example, you put a 400 motor in a 350 chassis. The 400 airbox, which works with the 400 carbs and their original configuration, works great when it's all together and intact. But as soon as you get rid of the original intake system, which is restrictive on the 400s, especially the 350s, maybe not as much. But I can't put a 400 airbox in here. It won't fit in the frame. The 350 frame is too small. So I was kind of jammed up on that. So when I tried to work around it, I assure you, it can't be done. If it could be done, I would have done it. I've spent 50 hours probably screwing with carb settings. Different carbs, different, I mean, every possible jetting configuration all over the place with the pilot. The main jets, the needles, I've tried different needles. I've tried different clip positions. I've tried cutaway on the slide. Got a lot of carb parts here, so I have been able to juggle every possible combination. And the only solution for the 350 and the 400, because I had really the same issues with both of them, you got to get rid of this bleed type needle jet. That's all there is to it. This is the Dave F mod that I think all the old guys knew about a long time ago, but most of those old forums and internet posts have gone dormant or been taken down. Cost money to host a website, so I get it. Unfortunately, that means we have to figure this shit out again in 2024. But yeah, I hope this helps somebody out there, because honestly, it's unusual to have to configure or reconfigure carburetors to this extent, just for, you know, oh yeah, change the, put a different intake on it, different airbox, you know. In my experience, again, with the modern carbs like the PWK Keane and the TMX Mikuni, pretty much everything else, I've never had to fight with one like I've had to fight with this RD, so it's worth it. Now I got clean power. I don't have any weird irregularities in the delivery. I don't have a flat spot in the mid-range. I have clean, smooth carburation. I have linear throttle response, you know, proportional to the, you roll into it a little bit and you get a little more power. It's great. It's how it should be. And that's kind of how the R5 motor was, that 350 piston port. I was hesitant to pull that motor out and put in this 400, even though I built this 400 from bare cases, built crank, everything's fresh. So this one, I was really excited to try it. But I was really, I mean, every time you pull a motor out that's meant, you got it dialed in, you know you're going to start the process over. And that's what I had to do. But fortunately, I had some clues from the R5 carbs. You just have to convert to the R5 configuration with the primary type needle jets, which, you know, coincidentally, Yamaha already had that. I don't know why they got away from it. I'll never quite understand that. Because the economy's good with the with these primary needle jets. The R5 motor, I was getting close to 120 miles on a tank, which is pretty crazy. This 400 here, I'm still testing. We'll see how it does, but so far the fuel consumption seems very good. It's better than it was with these original setup bleed type. I was getting maybe low 40s with those, which is not exceptional, you know, especially if I'm on my best behavior. They have a tendency to be rich when you don't want them to be rich, and they're lean when you don't want them to be lean. So they're kind of both at the same time, which is, you know, carburation-wise, that's a problem. So at least you know the fix, though. 5DP7s, they're still available. You can get them from, I do a lot of shopping with the Economy Cycle. They've got some really good stuff, really good prices. This is not an endorsement. I'm not paid. Just letting you know, if you want to buy high-quality, genuine parts and high-quality reproductions, too. They have good stuff that is discontinued, can't get anymore. It's a good source, so I would check them out. I'll probably do another video about this motor and what's going on with it. It is a RD400, like a 76 through 78, the 1A1, stuffed into a 75 350 chassis, which is not terribly difficult. The motor itself's got some little, you know, I can't just leave it alone. I gotta screw around with it. So it's got a 5-speed transmission from an R5. I'm still not sure what I don't know if I like that yet or not, but I might do another video on that because there's a lot going on there. I will say for sure I don't like the 6-speed and the 400 for the street with a stock engine. It's kind of stupid to have such small gaps between 4 to 5 and 5 to 6. It's like you almost have 4, 4.5, and 5. You know, it's not really much reason. You do a lot of shifting, and the gears are so close together on the top end. I don't know, that's kind of what I was trying to get away from. I think I like the 350, the RD350 6-speed better, but that's another video. So anyway, if you're having trouble with jetting, I feel you. I've been there. This is the solution. So, I mean, let me save you some time. Just buy those for an RD400, the 169 P4s. That's the needle jet you need. That'll solve all of the weirdness, that 5,000 RPM stumble that everybody's talking about. I've been there. The 350 has it. The 400 has it. The common denominator is the bleed type needle jet. So the faster you yank that thing out and throw it in the garbage, the better. Assuming you have a non-standard intake, which most people, everybody's putting Y boots on these things. So anyway, that's my the fruit of my labor. All the gas fumes I've been breathing trying to sort these carbs out. Hopefully it's worth something. Maybe somebody out there can save a little bit of time and not having to go through this painstaking process. There's a lot written about it, but there's a lot of contradictory information, as usual, on the internet. Everybody's got their own setups. They're all kind of unique, and it's really hard to kind of figure out how your setup's going to relate to it. So that's for a mostly standard motor. Honestly, if you have pipes on it, I think this is going to be the hot ticket. I do have some old vintage Toomeys. I think they're vintage Toomeys. I don't really know what the hell they are. They came out of a fire. Some guy's shop burned down like 30 or 40 years ago, and the pipes were left over. So he doesn't know. I really certainly don't know. Somebody on Facebook said they look like Toomeys. I'll probably put those back on here and do some more testing with these now that I have the carburation sorted out. Because, you know, it sucked with the pipes and I figured maybe it's the pipes causing the problem. So I put the stock pipes on, you know, for that and also for the nice smooth power they make. And what do you know, even with the stock pipes, still had the same jetting problems. So, clearly it's not the pipes, it's carbs, it's that needle jet. So anyway, have fun with that. You know, if you're having issues, if you're not happy with the carburation, or if you're still running the bleed type and you're just not sure, you know, could it be better? Yes, I assure you it could definitely be better. These things are supposed to run very clean, quite crisp, responsive, smooth. And if you're all stock, yours probably still does. But if you haven't, if you don't have the original intake set up, that has a greater effect on carburation than the pipes, believe it or not. You pull that stock airbox out. Pipes might make a difference 1 or 2 steps on the main jet, but that stock airbox requires a complete reconfiguration. So hope that helps, and you know, maybe more videos to follow. This has been a fun little project. I spent way too much time and money on it, but what can I say? These bikes are cool. I dig it. So at least I'm not at the bar drinking. I guess it could be worse. Anyway, thanks for watching.